Hi, everyone. I'm Rob.
I'm Smitty.
I want to welcome you to Chipola's Fifth Quarter Podcast. One of the most amazing things about being able to be a part of this podcast is we get to film from this amazing studio. We have an amazing media team here at Chipola College. And the Business and Technology Department was also ranked fifth best in the nation.
Wait, fifth?
Yeah, fifth best in the nation, Smitty.
Oh, I'll be dog.
Oh, absolutely. And it's something that we're very proud of here. So if you're hadn't been to college in a few years, you're thinking about going back, you don't know what kind of degree you want to go for, if so, or you may be a senior in high school and you're thinking about the future, we encourage you to check out Chipola's Business and Technology Department, the Dean, Dr. David Bovin. They have a great team over there. It's been a great ride so far, Smitty, to say the least. Yeah. We're both students here in the Business Technology Department, and so far we've had a blast. So, Smitty, kick us off, man. College football is getting close to the end.
It's getting close to the end, and all the games in November and close to December are the make it or break it moments in college football. That's where the real games begin, especially when it comes down to the top four in the college football playoff rankings. Georgia handling business with Missouri with 43-6.
That was more like a tune-up game, wasn't it?
They call it a tune-up game. They just call it practice.
It's almost like Missouri didn't even get off the bus.
You could say that. But number 3 went down. Michigan State got beaten by Purdue of all teams.
Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, you heard that correctly.
Purdue?
Yes. Wow. This is the third time they've done this, I believe. They've done it. They may not have the best team, but they'll ruin it for everyone else.
So do we say, is it too early to say Purdue deserves a shot at the playoffs?
Let's not get too crazy.
Cincinnati was in there for a little while.
Well, they might be still, depending on how the college football committee ranks their current performance this past Saturday.
Look, Smitty, let me just stop you, man. We all know how this is going to go. The committee is a little bit biased towards Alabama. Ain't that how it goes every single year?
Oh, you can make the same argument against any SEC team.
Well, that's true. That's true.
But they didn't really help their case for Cincinnati being in the top 4, only winning by 8 points against Tulsa, a 3-5 team at the time. However, it is still a win.
Yeah, win's a win.
But they still have a couple games where they can get some stylus points on their team. Excuse me. But there's still time. However, I think the most effective help would be the other teams in the top 4 to pretty much just fall short. I mean, you already got Michigan State dropping, and Ohio State did not really help their case. They struggled to win, basically, against Nebraska, I believe.
So can we say overrated on the Ohio State Buckeyes?
It's tough. It's tough to say, but the next few games will probably be make it or break it for Ohio State. They didn't really impress people that much. They only won, the final score was 26-17.
That's just not there's no wow factor in that. Who did they play?
Nebraska,
the Cornhuskers. Scott Frost. I want to say Scott Frost is their head coach. Former UCF Golden Knight was the head coach at UCF, and I want to say he was head coach of the Blake Bortles era, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so.
Yeah,
yes.
Then transfers back to Nebraska. Hadn't really made a splash up there with the Cornhuskers.
No, it's kind of tough, but Nebraska has been having head coaches on the chopping block for quite some time. Same thing can be said about Tennessee and Florida State.
Well, Tennessee's basically a revolving door at this point. I mean, Josh Heupel, however you want to pronounce his name. They beat Kentucky this past weekend, which was kind of surprising considering how Kentucky's football program has been really good. You know, they beat the Gators this year. And I want to say they racked up, 4 or 5 wins on the season so far?
They have, but they lost by, I think, a touchdown. And Kentucky was ranked 18th in the country at that point.
It wasn't really a convincing win of sorts. It was.
You could say they won by a field goal. The final score was 45-42.
Oh, so those high scoring games like that. I mean, they're not really that impressive. I mean, a win is a win. You don't want to take anything away from the other team. But
defense, what is that?
We don't know how to play defense.
But my biggest surprise was South Carolina and Florida.
I was waiting on you to get to that. When you talk about head coaches on the chopping block, I think Gainesville is calling for the head of Dan Mullen after this one. The Gators got shellacked? Was it 40-17 by the Gamecocks?
Yeah.
Man.
Well, they did get rid of their defensive coordinator and their offensive line coach.
That's right, Todd Grantham, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, in your eyes, do you think this late in the season, do you think a new defensive coordinator guarantees the remainder of their games as a win?
I do not see that. I do not see that coming. I mean, you can replace the coach, but it don't really take effect until the next season when they have those spring training to get those recruits in and so forth, and trying to get them installed in a new system.
Right.
So you can make the same that's the same argument for any new head coach, especially when it comes to Florida State.
Yeah.
And all that. I mean, you can say that the last season with the whole COVID situation was kind of a hit and miss, but the actual full test was this season.
Yeah.
And I think the athletic director of Florida State is going to stick with our current coach.
Yeah.
And there have been some positives, despite the fact that they've lost against North Carolina State 28-14. But they are showing progression. No matter how small the progressions are, they are still showing progression.
Yeah,
and that is the key. That is the key feature. Yeah. So if they can keep those progressions going, make those improvements, make those corrections, get some new players in there in the next season, we could see a completely different Florida State team.
You know, Smitty, I'm gonna have to agree with you on that. You know that we hadn't been in the studio. It's been about 3 weeks to a month.
Oh yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, so we're back. We're talking college football. You know, this Florida State Seminoles team. You know, they had high expectations to start off the 2021 season with the Notre Dame game. We've already hashed that out in some of our previous episodes. You know, they played really good. I thought against Clemson all the way up until about the latter part of the fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. I felt like you just felt the game slip away. Losing at home to NC State by 2 touchdowns, which ain't bad. You know, it's not like we were the Gators and we got beat by South Carolina 40-17 or anything like that. But Smitty, what I want to get to with this Florida State Seminoles team is we got Miami Hate Week coming up this week. We face the Hurricanes at home in Tallahassee, and I'm going to be honest with you, people have called me crazy the last couple of weeks because we've had conversations about this game, and I've told some of my fellow friends who are also Miami fans, I said I think this young Florida State Seminoles team has the potential to upset a Miami Hurricanes team because let's face it, Miami's not in tip-top shape. They're not playing at their peak potential. I mean, they've lost a few games this season that anybody else would have probably thought they would have won. Mm-hmm. And so, the way I see it, I see this Seminoles team, we found ourselves down. We're kind of climbing back out. We'd be lucky to finish the season 500. I don't want to go as far as to say we'll beat the Gators at the end of the season. I think that's a little too far-fetched. But as far as Miami, I think we have a really good chance to beat this Miami team at home this Saturday.
Well, Florida State has been dealing with a lot of issues as well. So not playing devil's advocate, that's just stating facts. Mm-hmm. However, as towards Florida State and Florida in the end of the season, it could be closer than we think. Mm-hmm. And they've been struggling, and Florida has been struggling oddly and all that, especially with the recent performances. It's going to be a slugfest, but I think it's going to come down to who has the ball last. And that's my prediction.
And obviously, good play calling and stuff like that, because I don't think it's any surprise to the Knoll fans that watch the podcast. Mackenzie Milton got the start this past weekend, and anytime Mackenzie starts, nothing against the kid. It's just he's not Jordan Travis. I've noticed every time we started Jordan Travis, he's at least given us a chance to make some big plays and at least keep us in the game. Milton, with that injury, he's just not the same quarterback he was at UCF before the transfer.
Right, and I mean, Milton has the experience, he has the knowledge, but Jordan Travis has that mobility and all that, and he's got a good arm too. I mean, we've seen it against Clemson and previous games before, but all it takes is repetition and experience. And I think if he sticks around, and who knows if he enters the transfer portal or not, we could see a completely different Jordan Travis next year.
Yeah, and I'm excited that he's a sophomore. The kid shows a lot of potential, and this season, I mean, it's no surprise we'd be lucky to finish 500 and potentially get a bowl bid. Definitely not thinking playoffs or anything like that, but I say the Noles upset by at least a field goal this weekend. Smitty, you got a prediction you want to throw out?
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna say Florida State wins by a touchdown.
By a touchdown? Okay, we'll take that. Moving on to the NFL, Smitty, the Dolphins finally getting a win at home against the Texans, 17-9. It was the Toilet Bowl. Is that what we call it? The Tank Bowl? The Toilet Bowl?
I prefer Tank Bowl.
Yeah, the Tank Bowl. Yeah.
I stole that from from a YouTuber called Urinating Street. I mean that's the name of his channel. I'm not making that up, but he calls it the Tank Bowl, and it's fitting because they're not really that good. But it is what it is.
No, I mean both teams. The Dolphins had a 1-7 record going into the game. Texans had the same record. It's a rough year for us Dolphins fans. We were looking for that second win. I'm kind of glad we got it. Obviously not thinking wild card or anything this year. Just have to prep for next year.
Right. But how about them Jaguars?
Hey man, the Jags upsetting the Bills by a score of 9-6.
Yeah.
I mean that was a field goal only game. And we talk about the Tank Bowl between the Texans and the Dolphins. I mean, do we call this the field goal only game? I mean,
it's a matter of who has the best foot in terms of the game.
Right, so. Absolutely. But in a game like this, when I saw the final score, Smitty, I had to be honest with you. I'm like, are we talking about the same Buffalo Bills team that in week 2 they come down to Miami and they blew us out like 35-7 or something like that? Like, are we talking about the same Buffalo Bills team that lost to a terrible Jacksonville Jaguars team?
I mean, it's a case of who showed up or not.
Well, I mean, the field goal kickers obviously showed up because nobody else did.
Yeah, I mean, who has the greater tenacity of not winning, basically?
I mean, yeah, that's what it comes down to. And that we're talking a little bit about the AFC. Smitty, let's move over to the NFC. The Cardinals, the Cowboys, the Rams, kind of surprising everybody this year.
I'm surprised the Broncos pulled off that win. I'm just like, really? Yeah. Against them boys, Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, and all those people. I mean, losing to the Broncos, who have been tanking.
I mean, I think Jerry Jones had to shut the lights out early that night. I mean,
either that, or have a drink. I mean, good Lord.
I mean, something. I mean, your Cowboys are what at the time 6-1, and you lose to a what were they, a 3-4 at the time Denver Broncos team or a 4-4 Broncos team. Nothing really special. That was really shocking. And in the NFC, it looks, Smitty, like all roads lead in the NFC. Now, you don't want to take any shine away from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but they're not playing to their full potential this year. A few key injuries got them out on defense and a little bit on offense. But in the NFC, Smitty, I said this before, I say you could potentially see a matchup between the Rams and the Cards. You could see a matchup between the Cards and the Packers. I mean, you've got some pretty decent teams in the NFC this season that we haven't seen in the last 10 years or so.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's a toss-up at this point, especially when we're going into we're in the middle of the NFL season.
Right.
Couple of things I want to highlight though. The Cleveland Browns releasing Odell Beckham Jr.
Wow.
and now officially on waivers. And to top it all off, they beat the Bengals 41-16.
Wow, OBJ out at Cleveland. So where does he go from here is the question.
Not sure. Some say they want to go to Green Bay. Some say going into some other team. For what I know,
I think the Dolphins need him. I mean, we're kind of down at wide receiver. I mean, OBJ at Miami. I mean, Jarvis Landry was there for a little bit before we sent him to the Browns.
I mean. Anything goes at this point,
right? I mean, at this point, you're just trying to salvage what's left of your season. Smitty, this is kind of a bold prediction. I mean, but do we say that the Cards went out? I mean, I know they lost to the Packers. Was it a couple of weeks ago?
It was. I think it was a couple of weeks ago.
A couple of weeks ago, but I mean, do we potentially see an Arizona Cardinals team make a Super Bowl run this year?
It depends on how well they finish. Right. I mean, it's just it's all a matter of when they. At their best, when on the rise.
Yeah.
There were plenty of NFL teams in the past seasons that they had the best of the best receivers, best offensive line, best defense, but they fell short to even make the playoffs.
Right.
So I'm not going to hold my breath if the Arizona Cardinals don't make it to the Super Bowl. I would expect them to make it to the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
But it all depends on how well they do against the teams that they want the most. Right now, I see the Green Bay Packers wanting it the most if Aaron Rodgers can stay off the COVID protocol and so forth, which is a whole new different bag of worms that we're just not going to touch.
Right, and since we're talking about the NFC, there's one team we haven't mentioned. The Saints losing Winston to an ACL. Is it an ACL tear?
That's a huge blow.
But get this, they start the third stringer over Taysom Hill at quarterback. So the Saints are not the team that they were even last year, and Breeze made it clear, I'm not coming out of retirement just because Winston's down. So the Saints are licking their wounds at quarterback. I don't see the Saints being a threat in the NFC. I tell you, Smitty, I think all roads lead to either the Rams or the Cards. As far as the Packers go, they could be one of those teams that make it all the way to the NFC Championship game again like they did last season. But, you got the Tampa Bay Bucks on the other side of that, and they got Brady. And very rarely does Brady have a losing season, but every dog has his day. Could we see the Tampa Bay Buccaneers' success that they had last year and Brady's success and his illustrious career all of a sudden come to an end? I mean, it's been over 20 years he's played in the league, and some of these players around him, they're built differently than Brady was. A lot of them are sitting out for, in my opinion, ridiculous reasons, whether it be a hurt thumb or something else. They're not wanting to play through a lot of these injuries, and the game is not like it used to be.
Oh, yeah.
Brady's kind of built different because he come up in the era of Ray Lewis, Ed Reed. He played in that early 2000s era where you had a lot of tough defenses, and obviously, penalties were not plentiful like they are today. The refs kind of kept the flag in their pockets in those days. I make a bold prediction here. I think this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team, I think their Super Bowl run last year was great, but I think that success is probably going to be a little short-lived. I think we potentially could see the last of Brady in the next couple of years.
I will say this, though, and I'm going to go ahead and make a prediction. If the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have to play a wild card game, they're not going to make it to the Super Bowl. Quote me on it.
Quote you on it.
Yeah.
So I want you, the viewers and fans of this podcast, if Tampa Bay draws a wild card game, they won't make it to the Super Bowl. Now, the question is, Smitty, as we get ready to wrap it up, because I see we only got a couple more minutes left, let's say hypothetically Tampa Bay draws a wild card game. Who are they playing? I want you to really think about this, Smitty. You got time. Tampa Bay draws a wild card game. Who do they play?
Who's on in the NFC? I'm trying to refresh my memory real quick.
Let's see. You've got the Giants. You got the Eagles. You got the football team, the Washington football team. You got Dallas. You got the Rams. You got the Cards. You got the Packers. I'm going
to go with Dallas.
You say Tampa Bay draws a wild card game against Dallas. I say if Tampa Bay draws a wild card game against Dallas, you can quote me on this. I say Dallas wins that game. You know why? I don't think Dallas has near the injuries on their team that Tampa Bay does. I think their defense is hurting more than anything else. Richard Sherman out with an injury and a few other key players. And I just don't think that team's playing to the level that they played last year. I say Dallas wins that if it's a wild card matchup.
Now that also depends on how well they finish, how well Dallas finishes, and there's only I think there's only 17 games this season.
Yeah, 17 games, which normally it's been 18 or something like that. 16.
It's 16.
18, 16, something like that. So they extended it one more game this year. I don't think we're going to have anybody going undefeated. I think that's kind of out of the question.
No, the last undefeated team was the Cardinals, and they lost to the Green Bay Packers.
Yep.
72 Dolphins, rejoice. Your record's still going to be the same.
Yep. So we can hang our hat on that. Of course, that was about a little less than 20 years before I was thought of. But, it never hurts to hang your hat on some history, Smitty. And it's been good talking some NFL football with you, because the playoffs are lurking right around the corner.
Oh, yeah.
It's getting close to Thanksgiving, and, college kind of winds up, and the NFL keeps going. I say the Cards, Smitty, I say they're going to be in the NFC Championship game. Then again, I could be wrong. You got to look at the divisionals. So in each division, as far as the NFC East goes, do we potentially see the Eagles match up against New York Giants? I mean, because the Washington football teams, they're not really doing all that well.
No, they've been kind of hit and miss.
Yeah, kind of hit and miss. I mean, the NFC East last year was definitely not that good. So
that's the reason they were called the Tank Division.
Yeah, this year I think the AFC kind of stole that title from them. But Smitty, it's always good get together and talk some football with you. Maybe next week we'll get back and we'll be talking some more, okay?
Pleasure having fun here.
Yeah, man. It's always a blast. And you guys have a great week, and we hope that you have a safe Veterans Day weekend and Veterans Day. We'll see you next time.
Take care.